Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. You know, the Western movies portray the Russians as crazy and a little bit funny because they're so naive. Well, that's a misconception. The Russians are very smart, very consistent, and direct. We have here Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister of the Russian Federation, finally telling us straight that Russia has no illusions or got rid of any illusions regarding the Western's two-phase policies. And I have here about 30-second video clip of Sergei Lavrov answering some questions while he is next to the Zimbabwean, my friends, Prime Minister. And he's asked about Zelensky and the peace formula and if the Russians will accept peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. And he's going to say, you know what, diplomacy and common sense and things like this. I'll let him explain to you how the Russians view the West. And here is, I'm going to go to this one right here. Ready, set, and let's see if it goes.
They were essentially discussing Russia without Russia. Well, this is such a colonial and neo-colonial way of thinking. Simply put, this is rudeness, which they consider a normal way of behavior for themselves. That is, without Ukraine, you can't say a word about it, and without Russia, talking about Russia is welcome. They were bragging now, both Starmer and Macron, that they are now going to slap something together on paper. They will explain to Zelensky that he must accept it, and then they will go to Trump to get his approval. And all this will then be presented to Putin. How is this possible from the point of view of diplomatic etiquette? I understand that etiquette is a relative matter, and I have been working in real diplomacy for a long time, and I will say that this is not about etiquette, but about decency. Decency has long been trampled upon by the West, so there is nothing surprising in this. But I hear sensible voices, including within NATO, within the European Union, who understand that Macron.
So these guys have been trampling on that for some time. They have no illusions anymore. Not that they should have had, but you see, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Mike, will you do this for me?" And you say, "Yeah, okay, can we put it on writing?" I personally would be insulted by that. Or if someone comes and said, "Hey, Gigi, can you give me your word that you would do that?" For me personally, that's insulting. Why? Because I see myself in high regards, which is I respect myself. I don't have to give you my word. What I say, that's what it is. If you ask me for my word, that means you have doubts that I'm going to follow through with what I'm saying I will. And that's an insult to me personally. Now, if you want me to write it down, again, it's an insult. Now, I understand certain, contracts need to be signed and so on. But I'm talking about in, everyday life and not only. So the Russians dropped that illusion that the West is somehow civilized. Remember, they talk about the so-called West, the so-called civilized West. Putin was talking about this. Lavrov was talking about this. Why? West showed that they thought that the Russians are like the Hollywood portrays them. Somehow crazy, but very funny, naive, hillbillies. Or, I don't know, something like baboons, Just throw them a banana and they will be, that's fine. And now they realize that actually the Russians are not like that. And you know what's the consequences of that? It's a shock. The Westerners, I think they're really shocked that cannot fool the Russians with their little tricks like democracy, freedom, and all those empty words. Empty words. And I'm glad that Lavrov just says, you know what, these guys are just etiquette. Well, that's sometimes, diplomacy, sometimes changes, but no, you've been fooling us for some time. And the first time when I can use as an example, when the West was fooling the hillbillies from Russia, was when they promised no NATO expansion eastward in 1 inch. They will not expand if Soviet Union, Russia agreed to the unification of Deutschland über niemals. And the Soviets, the Germans said, yeah, the Russians said, okay, yeah, we agree with that. They didn't sign anything. The German unification occurred, but the word that NATO will not expand eastward was not kept. So that was the first treason, non-gentleman behavior coming from the civilized West. Well, is it better? Well, it depends. I mean, I like people who come and tell me like this, you know what? I don't like you, and I'm going to punch you in the face. All right, I will stay away from you. I don't like people who say, man, you're fantastic, come over. When you come over, say, hey, what's over there? And when I look, smack. Now that is weakness. This is weaselness. And that gets me to the Stefan the Great, Stefan cel Mare, a Romanian king from Moldova. And I was very surprised and a little bit insulted. How could Stefan cel Mare, Stefan the Great, who reigned almost 50 years in those times, and 14 something until 1503 or something, he said on his deathbed to his little buddies around, guys, he fought the Turks all the time. He fought the Poles, he fought the Tatars, he fought the Hungarians, but mainly the Turks. The Turks were the bad guys over there in those times. And the other guys were supposed to be civilized. The Hungarian kingdom with Matyas Korvin. Then you have the Sovietsky guys in Poland. And you got the whatever in the Cossacks and so on. The Tatars. So he said on his deathbed, guys, trust the Turk more than the guys in the West. And when I read that, I can't remember how old I was, 17, 18, I was like, what the hell? The West is the best. Remember Jim Morrison's This Is the End song? The West is the best. Get here and we'll do the rest. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, garbage. No, my friends. I was thinking, what the hell was this guy was out of his mind? Well, think about it. Think about it. And if you want to think about it, just think of one country in the West, and that is Great Britain. That's it. You don't have to think about America and the broken promises with the Indians. Don't think about this kind of low thing. Look at, as I said, Great Britain and see how it got the empire. Well, that's the way you get it in the real world, which is treachery, power, blackmail, and backstabbing. So I'm not saying this is something that is unique to the Western country. I'm not saying that, right? But as I said before, I like people who come and tell me, you know what, I'm gonna, okay. Honorable thief, honorable thug. The other ones, no. We're exceptional. But if you look behind us in our closet, you're gonna find, I don't know, atomic bombs dropped. You're gonna find, I don't know, Gulf of Tonkin pretext in Vietnam, and then Laos, Cambodia, and then napalm, and then My Lai massacre, and then you find all kind of things, and then you find the lies about Saddam Hussein, weapons of mass destruction, and you find about the other bad dude, Gaddafi. I'm going back again to Milosevic in Yugoslavia. All these things are just interpreted, and then Kosovo, interpreted in a certain way. All those were weasels. And then you have no 1 inch expansion of NATO eastward. No promise. Gentleman agreement. 1991. The perpetrator for that, or of that, was James Baker, not Boris Becker, the tennis player, okay? Right? He told that to Shevardnadze, the foreign minister of Soviet Union then, and to the baboons over there. And they said, okay, man, these are the Westerners, the guys who are better than us, the civilized world. And the other guy said, how do you look at these guys? Do you remember that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Red Heat? Remember that one? When Arnold Schwarzenegger comes as a policeman from looking for Victor. Remember, where's Victor? I'm looking for Victor, with Belushi. Now that's how, they're kind of like serious, but like, how do you call it? tense people, kind of funny in their stupidity, but no. Russia has been around much longer than I think other countries that now pretend to rule the world. Now, empires come and go, like the British Empire fucked itself in 1945. Hey, they won the war against Hitler, but then they got bankrupt. There's no reason. I mean, have you ever asked yourselves why the winner of the Second World War, the British winner, the Winston Churchill, was voted out of office right after the Second World War? Have you ever asked yourself why? I mean, he was right. He won the war together with Stalin, the Georgian dictator of Soviet Union, and with the other baboon, Harry Truman, who dropped 2 atomic bombs. So we got 2 criminals and a drunk. Have you ever wondered why Churchill was not in power until he dropped dead? He bankrupted your country, you lost your empire, and you became a third-rate country as power in the world. So, good job. All right, my friends, here is the no illusions for the Russians. I don't think they had illusions. I think they had more, style. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.